Well, guys, it's about to get a little sexy in here because we're going to talk about sex determination and sex linked traits. Sex determination is how genetically you're determined to be either a male or a female or a hermaphrodite. And sex linked traits are the traits that are passed down either from your mother or your father based on the X chromosome or the Y chromosome. Now, before we discuss any further, we have three important principles. The first one is that there are several mechanisms of sex determination and also for inheritance of sex-linked traits. The second is that the X and Y chromosomes pair during meiosis. However, they're not homologous except only at the pseudoautosomal regions. The pseudoautosomal regions are the places where they're structurally and genetically homologous, so they're able to combine in that, pair at that region. Now, for sex determination, we can have three different results. We can have either a hermaphrodite, which displays somewhat ambiguous characteristics of both genders. We have monoecious, which has a male and female structure in one organism. And we have dioecious, which is only one type of gender structure. So you have either a male or a female structure in that organism. People tend to confuse hermaphrodites with monoecious organisms because they do seem kind of similar. However, monoecious, so like if you have a monoecious plant, what you have is a plant that can self-pollinate. So it has a male structure and a female structure on the other end, and so it can self-pollinate. And hermaphrodites are that they end up with a kind of like a structure that is similar to both of them. It's like either a complete or a partial sort of reproductive organ of both at the same time. Also, your chromosomes can end up either heterogametic, that is, that you have XY chromosomes, or in birds, it would be ZW, and homogametic, which would be XX or ZZ. Now we're going to see why you can't have two Ys at the same time, and by consequence, why you can have two Ws in birds. So from here on out, we're going to focus on the sex determination in humans. What we see is that the X chromosome is essential for both sexes. You have to have an X chromosome, at least one, whether you're male or female. Now, a single Y chromosome produces male phenotypes, that is, male genetic expression, male characteristics. Even if there are multiple X chromosomes combined to it, it'll still produce male characteristics. By consequence, if you're missing Y chromosomes, you develop female characteristics. It's impossible to have, therefore, two Ys at the same time because an X chromosome is vital. Literally, the organism will not develop inside the womb if it has two Y chromosomes. It'll just immediately die. So it needs at least one X, and if there's one Y, then it's male. Now, that's a little bit different in birds. In birds, we have ZW and ZZ. ZZ are the males, and ZW are the females. So the roles are reversed in the case of birds. Now here we have three different cases that are pretty fascinating, and they're actually kind of rare. Turner syndrome is the first one, in which you only have one X chromosome. Now, Unlike unlike if you were to have only one Y chromosome, where the fetus would die, one X chromosome, you can still survive with that, and it accounts for 1 in 3,000 female births. The second is Klinefelter syndrome, where you have essentially multiple X's and one Y. And here you would still develop male phenotypes, so this one is still a boy. And the third one is poly-X syndrome, where you have essentially you can put as many X's as you want. Usually it's a trisomy X, so you would usually find the most frequent case of this is 3 X's, and it accounts for 1 in 1,000 female births. Now let's talk about sex-linked traits right now. We can have traits that are either X-linked or Y-linked. X-linked, obviously you can get them from your mom, and they can still be passed down from your dad, but only if you end up with a girl. Because logically, the mom would give an X, and if the dad gives an X, then you get a girl, and then that girl would have the X-linked traits passed on from the dad, which the dad got from his mom. A very common X-linked trait is colorblindness in humans, which usually presents itself as a recessive red-green blindness, and it's most common in males. So here and that makes sense. You'll see why later when we study recessive traits and all that. Now here we have Y-linked traits, and Y-linked traits are present only in males, obviously, because the female would not have a Y chromosome. And it's present only in males, and all the male offspring will exhibit these characteristics. Now let's talk about a thing called X inactivation. So in females have 2 X chromosomes, but which of those chromosomes is going to get expressed in each cell? Well, that's where X inactivation comes in. X inactivation was first came about with a hypothesis called the Lion hypothesis, which theorized that one chromosome is randomly inactivated and expressed in each cell. Later, that was found to be true using an experiment where they would stain the nuclei of the cells, and they found these chromosomes that were dark stained, and while the other one was not. And these dark stained chromosomes were called bar bodies. These are the inactive X chromosomes. So one chromosome is randomly inactivated in each cell, and so 50% of the cells express one of the alleles, one of the X chromosomes, and 50% express the other. And proteins, so then the proteins of both of the alleles are produced, but not in the same cell. Some are produced in one cell, and some are produced in the other, etc. Here we have an image of the male and female chromosomes, and here we have an image of a male and female cell. The male cell, you can see it doesn't have any dark staining, but the female cell has dark staining, and that is the bar body. Now this is shown in these kind of calico tortoiseshell cats, where you can see that some of it is orange and some of it is black. This is obviously a female cat that has had X inactivation occur. Also, there's confusion that X inactivation is the same as Turner syndrome. Turner syndrome means that they have just one X chromosome, whereas in X inactivation you still have both, and both are still expressed, but both are still expressed in different, they take turns, we can say, when they're expressed in each cell of the body.